All right, just for sake of recording, let's go back to this. Four, 6, 8, 10, number 12. 16, 18, 20, 22. All right, everyone got the worksheet? Yeah. All right. All right, so we are going to start learning the quadratic formula, which is great. Let me just show you how this generates. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 is the standard form of a quadratic formula, or quadratic, just quadratic, where a, b, and c represent any number you want. And we learned how to factor them. And I never did show you how to put these in the vertex form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the quadratic equation was generated. You don't need to know this, but I bet you could follow along with me to figure this out. Pen. Let's go with blue. All right, first thing I want to do, I want to solve for x. So I have an x squared and an x. Oh boy. All right, so I have ax squared plus bx equals negative c. Let's just bring that over. What did I do? I subtracted c. Now, I don't want to have a value in front of my a squared or x squared, so I'm going to divide everything by a. So those cancel. That gives me x squared plus b over a x equals negative c over a. Seem all right so far? All right. I want to make this side have a perfect square trinomial. And that term means a perfect square trinomial would be like if I could do x plus 5 and x plus 5. X. Cool. Water. All right, so I want to make it a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to take half of b over a. Half of b over a is b over 2a. Sound okay so far? Then I want to square it. So b over 2a squared is b squared over 4a squared. If I add it to one side, I have to add it to the other side. Still with me? This is a perfect square trinomial, meaning this would factor to x plus b over 2a, x plus b over 2a. So I'm going to do that squared. And then this one, I want to have multiply top and bottom by 4 and a. Top and bottom by that. So then this side will clean up to be b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared.
You lost me.
I know. It happens.
You lost me like 5 miles back.
It happens. That's why I don't need you to necessarily learn this. I just want you to see where it comes from. All right. So from here, I'm going to take the square root of each side. So if I take the square root of each side, I need a plus or minus. So then I get x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus. The top is b squared minus 4ac. I can't take the square root of that. But I can take the square root of 4a squared, which is 2a. And then my last step to this is I'm going to subtract this from both sides. I'm going to subtract negative b over 2a from both sides. Notice they have the same denominator, so now I can just put it together like this. This is the quadratic formula. Okay? That was hard math to get to that. You know what the quadratic formula does? What are you always trying to solve for with parabolas? Where it crosses the x-axis, right? Those are the solutions, right? So that's x equals, right? Well, x equals, well, we know where the a and the b and the c values fall in standard form. Ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So if you know what a, b, and c is, guess what you get to plug in? Constants up there, the negative in front of the b comes along for the ride, the negative 4 comes along for the ride, and the 2 in the denominator comes along for the ride. They're constants, they're always there. Okay? So let's see how this is actually applied. You don't need to learn how to or you don't need to go through this, but it's a fantastic, beautiful piece of math made to make math a little better. All right, so let's start for warm-up. 2x squared, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Still with me? Divide each side by 2. Root, x equals plus or minus 6. That's nice. Works out nice. Second one, you might see that as difference of 2 squares, or you might not. You might say, hey, I have this, and then I take the square root, and I have to make sure I have plus or minus. So this gets me x equals plus or minus 2. Right? This problem, we might have to try and factor it. So I know my magic number is going to be positive 10. In order to get there, I need both to be negative. So 1 and 5, 2 and 7. Excuse me. 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Sorry about that. 2 and 5 will work if they're both negative to give me the negative 7. So if I plug this in, I get 2x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 5. What do I have in common here? I have 2x. That gives me x minus 1. Negative comes down. Factor out a 5. I factor out a negative 5, so it has to be a negative 1. So I'm going to get 2x minus 5 and x minus 1 equals 0. So this is going to give me x equals, add 5 divided by 2, 5 over 2, add 1. There's my two solutions. So if it factors, you can solve it really nicely, really easy. Agree? We did come across some back in the day when we were just factoring, and it didn't factor and we labeled it as prime. Okay? And the prime ones, basically, you know the parabolas that we can't see where it crosses the x-axis exactly? That's because it's crossing at some sort of square root. It's crossing at the square root of 7. Where's that at? I don't know. Somewhere between 2 and 3. Where exactly? At root 7? Where exactly is that? At root 7? Do you know exactly where it is? At root 7? I can make my number line go root 1, root 2, root 3, root 4, and find root 7 that way. Can I move on? Let's see how this is going to work. All right. So if I tried this one, my magic number is negative 2. So I have to have alternating signs, so the factors of 2 are 1 and 2. And there's no way that I can put 1 and 2 together with 1 being positive, 1 being negative, to come up with a negative 4. Agree? So we would have labeled this one a few weeks ago as prime. Okay, but they do exist. So let's see where this is going to go. Okay, we just did this. Oh, there's a song. You guys might not like me more for this, but we're doing it anyhow.
I saw Barney in the record.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
We're going to do it again.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
One more time.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Maybe one more time.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
There you go. That was the mosh pit version.
Barney math.
Barney math. No, we're not going to hit up Barney. All right, so we are going to be using this equation here. Because that equation has an A, it has a B, and it has a C in it. Which means I can solve for X. Okay.
I think it's way better.
You don't like the song? Oh, yeah, I did too.
I think it's way better.
All right, so let's try and solve this one. We just couldn't solve it before because we didn't have it. So things that I know about this problem is my A value is 1, my B value is negative 4, my C value is negative 2. Agree? And we know that X is equal to negative B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A.
Why don't we all sing it?
You, can load that on your phones so you can listen all the time. That's the best new song you've heard, not by Justin Bieber. Hey, that was pretty good!
Gonna be stuck in my head for 2 weeks.
I don't like you anymore. All right, ready? Here, let's do this. X is equal to negative. Cool. What's my b value? Negative 4 plus or minus b squared. That's b is negative 4 squared minus this 4 is the same. A is what? 1. C is all over 2 times what's A? Okay. What is negative 4? Positive 4 plus or minus. What is negative 4 squared, meaning negative 4 times negative 4? Positive 16. What's negative 4 times 1? Negative 4. What's negative 4 times negative 2? Positive 8. All over 2. Because 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 24 over 2. If you got to that point, you have 2 of the 3 points correct on the answer. This is indeed what x is equal to. You have 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 is okay, but I'd prefer to get the last point. You have to recognize 24 breaks down to this. So I'm going to plug 2 root 6 in for what? 24. So I get 4 plus or minus 2 root 6 over 2. I can reduce my fraction. Everything outside of the radicals can be reduced by 2. 2 goes into itself once, goes in there twice. So my answer to this problem is 2 plus or minus the square root of 6. Where would this cross the x-axis? It would cross at 2 plus root 6, and it would cross at 2 minus root 6.
Bam.
That's it. Those are exact answers. Exact answers, ladies and gentlemen, are our friends. This is how our cell phones work so efficiently. And that's just one little place where they work really well. Okay, there's other places we use exact numbers. Can I move on?
Yeah.
We doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay, 17 more slides. Ooh, just kidding. All right, so if I wanted to work this problem, I will tell you that this is going to factor to x plus 2, x plus 3. Set it equals 0. So that's x is equal to negative 2, x is equal to negative 3. Okay, so that worked really nicely. Let's see how this works with the quadratic formula. So I get x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Agree? Just in case you didn't remember, x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And if you didn't realize that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 5, c is equal to 6, right? So let's plug this all in. It's all plugged in. Let's solve it. Negative 5 plus or minus 25 minus 24, because negative 4 times 1 is 4, negative 4 times 6, negative 24, all over 2 equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 1. Hey, what's the square root of 1? Square root of 1 is what?
1.
1. Square root of 1 is 1. All right, ready? Negative 5. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 over 2, negative 2. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Sometimes factoring's faster. Sometimes the only way to solve it is the quadratic formula. Okay, which way do I want you to do it? The way that you may feel the most comfortable and get the correct answer. Oh, this person took longer because they used this way. So what? May I move to the next slide? Thank you. What?
So for the last answer, you can't really get any deeper down like that, so we solve this.
Because everything broke down. Yeah, because square root of 1 is 1. So negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 over 2 is negative 2. And then negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Cool? All right. What's wrong with this problem?
No C.
Yeah, where's my C value? It's on the wrong side, isn't it? So we got to move it to the appropriate side. Agree? So my A value is going to be 2, my B value is going to be -6, my C value is going to be -20. Okay, if I factor this, I know I could take out a 2 and I'd get x squared minus 3x minus 10. So this is going to factor to x minus 5, x plus 2. This 2 up front doesn't affect anything, so I get an answer of 5, and I get an answer of -2. So that worked nicely. Quadratic formula, we'll say, okay, well, we know that x is equal to -b plus minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. -6, 6 plus minus -6 squared, 36. -4 times 2 is -80. -80 times -20 is positive 160 over 4. 36 added to that is 196. Does anyone recognize 196 as a perfect square? Square root of 196. Does anyone want to take a shot at it? Bigger than 10, less than 20.
18.
Pretty close.
11.
14 though.
7.
14 times 14 is 196.
I was
You were right there in the ballpark. I love it. So that's 14 over 4. Okay, ready? So the square root of 196 is 14. It's a perfect square. 6 plus 14, 20. Yes? 20 over 4 is 5. 6 minus 14 is -8. Or, excuse me, 6 minus 14 is -8. -8 over 4, -2. It worked. Which way is the better way to do it? Some people are really good at factoring. Some people saw factoring and go, just let me get through this with a C. Right? Those of you that are like, let me just get through this factoring with a C, guess what your new best friend might be? It's got a fun song to go with it. Yeah, baby. All right. 2 more slides, yes? This one wouldn't factor. This one I would probably have called prime. Okay? But we know that my A value is 1, my B value is 4, my C value is -6. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. -4 plus or minus 16. That's plus 24 over 2. So -4 plus or minus the square root of 40 over 2. You got it to the right there. You are correct for 2 of the 3 points because root 40 is going to break down to 4 times 10, which is 2 root 10. 2 root 10 is going in place of what? 2 root 10 goes in place of what? The root 40. So if you got here, you get 2 of the 3 points. If you get to here, and it's reduced, you're going to get the rest of your points. So that's a 10. So I can reduce everything by a factor of 2. 2 goes to itself, 2 goes to that, 2 goes to that. So -2 plus or minus root 10. What's the answer to this problem? -2 plus or minus root 10. So you might want -2 plus root 10 and then also write -2 minus root 10. That's fine. That's the shorthand version. Yeah, I want you to solve it. It will solve. It solves now. Prime just means that I couldn't tell where it crossed the x-axis. Now I can see a little bit better where it crosses at an exact value. If your x-axis is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to cross in between 2 numbers. Last one, ready? All right, I will tell you this one won't factor either. So A is equal to 2, B is equal to -4, C is equal to 3. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative, negative 4, positive 4, plus or minus. Negative 4 squared, 16. Negative 4 times 2, negative 8. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24 over 4. 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 over 4. If you can get to this point, you realize there's no real solution.
Wait, Mr. Stir.
Talk to me.
So, wouldn't you do 4 divided by 4 then?
I could, but I have that negative radical in there right now.
Oh, okay.
So you could take this on. If you get to this answer, you're good. So this parabola, if I had graphed this parabola, it opens up and it does this. It doesn't cross the x-axis. Yes, they always cross the y-axis, but that doesn't mean anything. So our solutions to this problem exist up here as imaginary numbers. Again, that's the name of it. Now, if you wanted to be that varsity math student, I would take this problem to this. Okay, change out the negative under the radical, call it I. And then recognize that 8 breaks down to be 2I root 2. 2 root 2 is the same thing as 8, or square root 8. Then I can reduce everything by a factor of 2. So I get 2 plus or minus I root 2 over 2. And that's your answer. That's the varsity answer. If you want to be that real cool kid, if you're like, dude, I am satisfied getting a 3 out of 3 on a problem, and I don't want the 5 out of 3 on a problem, getting extra credit, then don't do it. Cool? I'm hoppy. Hoppy. I'm hoppy. So page 147, 148. 147, 148. Odds. Now again, guys and girls, realize I haven't been collecting homework, but that doesn't say, oh sweet, I don't have to do it. Because the practice will ensure that you are starting to get this stuff down. Cool? Everyone happy?